The courthouse echoed with silence, broken by the distant hum of a ceiling fan. Suddenly, a nurse whispered a name, her trembling voice carrying weight heavier than stone. Michael froze, his blood turning to ice. A baby's cry sliced through the sterile air, sharp and haunting, pulling every eye toward the back of the room. Michael said, "That sound, it cannot be." His chest tightened, panic clawing through his ribs. The judge's gavel struck once, but the sound felt hollow against the revelation. The lawyer leaned forward, eyes piercing, as if daring Michael to deny what was already spoken. Sarah, seated stiffly, avoided his gaze, her lips pressed into a thin line that betrayed secrets she held too long. Michael whispered, "This is madness." But the nurse repeated, softer now, "The child carries your blood." His world fractured in a single moment, memories rushing in, lovers lost, mistakes buried, nights of regret. His hands trembled as he clutched the bench, trying to anchor himself in a reality that had already shifted. The courtroom no longer felt real. It was a stage, and he the unwilling actor, forced into a role he never asked for. Michael sat frozen, every sound muffled by the roar of his own heartbeat. The walls of the courtroom felt closer, suffocating him. He said, "It cannot be true." His words vanished in the air. Sarah stared straight ahead, her lips trembling though she refused to speak. Michael remembered nights he had buried deep, mistakes he thought forgotten. He felt as though the past itself had walked into the room and placed a child in his arms. The lawyer's gaze stayed sharp, pressing guilt into his bones without uttering a word. The baby's cry echoed like judgment, demanding recognition he could not give. The nurse's whisper replayed in his mind, a curse he could not silence. He wanted to run, but the courtroom anchored him in chains of duty. Sarah finally whispered, "It was never supposed to come here." Michael's eyes darted toward her, searching for answers in a face that avoided his. The weight of secrets pressed heavy, and denial no longer protected him. The judge cleared his throat, his voice stern and final. He said, "This matter cannot be ignored." Michael's stomach sank as if stones were tied to him. Sarah closed her eyes, her face tightening with shame. Michael whispered, "This child, why now?" The lawyer rose, her voice sharp. She said, "Because truth always finds its way to light." Michael's mind raced, searching for cracks in reality, but the baby's presence left no escape. He remembered promises he had broken, people he had left behind. His throat burned with the urge to deny, but silence trapped him. The baby whimpered, softer now, but it carried a weight greater than any scream. Sarah turned her face away, a tear catching the light on her cheek. Michael gripped his suit collar, feeling the walls collapse inward. His voice trembled, "I am not ready for this truth." Michael felt heat in his chest, anger rising through fear. He said, "You all speak as if I chose this." The lawyer snapped, "Choice ended the day you left responsibility behind." Sarah flinched, guilt crossing her face like a shadow. The nurse rocked the baby gently, her silence more powerful than words. Michael's fists clenched, a storm building inside him. He wanted to shout, to deny, but his throat betrayed him with silence. His eyes darted between the judge and Sarah, searching for someone to release him. Sarah finally whispered, "I tried to protect you, but truth cannot be buried." Michael felt his heart shatter in pieces he could never gather. The child's cry rose again louder, demanding an answer he was not ready to give. The courtroom held its breath. The judge's voice rumbled, "Denial changes nothing." Michael's vision blurred, his heart pounding louder than the gavel's echo. Sarah's shoulders shook as if carrying centuries of shame. Michael whispered, "I never asked for this." The lawyer said, "But it has asked for you." Michael's knees weakened, his body sinking under invisible weight. He looked at the baby, her small fingers clutching air, as if reaching for something only he could give. His chest broke open with fear and sorrow. He whispered again, "Not me. Please, not me." Sarah's tears fell, silent and heavy, as the baby's cry pierced the silence once more. Michael sat in his dim apartment, silence heavy like chains. He whispered, "I thought my past was buried." The baby's cry still echoed in his mind, louder than the ticking clock. Sarah's words haunted him, cutting through every wall he built. He remembered nights alone, drowning mistakes in whiskey. He saw the faces of those he left, promises abandoned in the dark. His father's voice returned, harsh and cruel, telling him he was never enough. Michael clenched his fists, saying, "I am not him. I refuse to be him." Yet his reflection in the cracked mirror whispered otherwise. He wanted to forget, but the child's fragile hand reaching upward shattered every defense. Sarah's tear-stained face replayed like a wound. Michael whispered, "Why now? Why this way?" The room closed in, suffocating him with memories. Shadows of failure wrapped around him, whispering of choices he could not undo. He slammed his fist against the table, trembling, caught between denial and the pull of something deeper than fear. Michael lay on the couch, staring at the ceiling where paint peeled like old scars. His chest rose and fell with shallow breaths. He whispered, "She wants me to carry this truth." The air smelled of stale cigarettes and regret. He remembered the night Sarah whispered promises of forever, and how easily forever had ended. The baby's face, so small and innocent, rose before his eyes. He whispered, "I am poison to everything I touch." His voice cracked, tears burning at the corners of his eyes. He saw his father again, standing tall with a belt in hand, rage filling every corner of his childhood. Michael curled inward, gripping his stomach, whispering, "I will not pass this curse." Yet deep inside, he felt the fragile spark of something he could not name. A pull toward the child, stronger than fear, heavier than shame. Morning light spilled into the apartment, pale and cold. Michael dragged himself to the window, staring at the gray city skyline. He whispered, "Everyone will judge me." Below, cars rushed, indifferent to his storm. Sarah's voice lingered, soft yet cruel. It was never supposed to come here. He pressed his forehead to the glass, eyes burning. He thought of the baby's cry, the fragile innocence that demanded his attention. His fists pressed against the window pane, as if holding himself upright against invisible weight. He whispered, "What if I fail her? What if I break her?" His reflection answered back, a broken man in yesterday's clothes. Michael sank to the floor, his back against the cold wall, whispering, "I cannot escape this. She carries my blood. She carries my sin." His body trembled as morning light washed across him like a cruel spotlight. Michael walked into the bathroom, mirror fogged from the dripping faucet. He leaned close, whispering, "You are not enough." His reflection glared back, eyes bloodshot, jaw clenched. He remembered Sarah's trembling hands, the lawyer's sharp gaze, the baby's cry echoing. He whispered again, "I cannot be what she needs." His mind raced to his childhood, where love was absent, replaced by fists and silence. He saw his mother's face, lined with sorrow, whispering, "We must endure." He slammed his palm against the sink, breath ragged. Water dripped slowly, each drop a cruel reminder of time slipping away. He wanted to shatter the mirror, to erase the reflection that mocked him. Instead, he whispered, "I will not repeat him. I will not be him." Yet even as he spoke, doubt clawed at him, leaving him fragile in the dim bathroom light. Night returned, shadows creeping into every corner. Michael sat at the table, head in hands. He whispered, "If I take her, I will lose everything. If I walk away, I lose myself." His voice cracked as he remembered Sarah's tears and the baby's hand reaching upward. The weight of responsibility felt like a mountain pressing on his chest. He whispered, "I was never built for this." He closed his eyes, tears streaking down his face. He saw himself as a boy again, standing in the doorway while his parents screamed, powerless, voiceless. He whispered, "No child should feel that." His chest ached as the fragile spark within him grew, a pull stronger than fear. He whispered, "Maybe she can save me, or destroy me." The silence in the apartment grew heavier. wrapping around him like chains of fate. Michael walked through his mother's front door, the house smelling of old wood and dust. She looked at him with cold eyes, voice sharp. "You've brought shame to this family." His stomach dropped, words caught in his throat. Sarah stood in the corner, silent, her eyes red from tears. Michael whispered, "I didn't ask for this." His mother said, "That child is not our burden." Anger boiled inside him, but guilt drowned his voice. He remembered being a boy, begging for her approval, never receiving it. The silence grew heavier, pressing into his chest. His fists clenched as he whispered, "She carries my blood." His mother shook her head, her lips curled with disgust. Sarah turned away, unable to face the storm. Michael felt the walls closing, judgment suffocating him. He whispered again, "I cannot abandon her." The argument erupted louder. Michael's mother shouted, "You will ruin us all with this scandal." Michael's chest heaved as he shouted back, "I will not deny her." Sarah flinched, her voice trembling. "Enough, please." His mother's hand struck the table, rattling dishes. She said, "You will walk away, Michael, or you are no longer my son." His breath caught, tears rising but burning against his pride. He remembered nights she told him he was worthless, words that still carved scars. He whispered, "I am not worthless to her." The room trembled with silence, every breath heavy with war. Later that night, Michael sat on the porch, the cool air cutting through his suit. His hands trembled as he lit a cigarette. Sarah followed quietly, sitting beside him. She whispered, "They'll never accept her." His jaw tightened, eyes fixed on the dark street. Michael said, "Then I'll stand alone." Sarah shook her head, tears catching moonlight. She whispered, "You don't know what it will cost you." He exhaled smoke into the night, whispering, "Everything has already cost me." He looked at her, eyes raw with pain, searching for hope in her silence. The next day, Michael's friend David came by, leaning against the doorframe with cold eyes. He said, "You always ruin everything." Michael's chest tightened, whispering, "I thought you'd stand with me." David smirked, shaking his head. He said, "You'll drag us all down. I won't watch you drown me too." Michael's fists clenched as betrayal sliced deeper than anger. He whispered, "Then you were never my friend." David's eyes narrowed, and he walked away, leaving silence heavier than words. Michael leaned against the door, his body trembling, whispering, "Everyone leaves." Michael sat alone at the kitchen table, the baby's faint cry echoing from Sarah's room. He pressed his hands against his face, whispering, "I am drowning." He remembered the lawyer's words, the judge's stern voice, his mother's cold rejection, David's betrayal. Every voice screamed at him to walk away. Yet the sound of the baby pulled him back, a fragile thread binding him to a fate he did not choose. He whispered, "Why do I feel her more than the hate?" His body shook, tears falling freely. He whispered again, "Maybe she's the only reason I am still here." The silence that followed was broken only by the soft cry of the child, a cry that anchored him to life. Michael sat across from Sarah in the dim kitchen, silence thick as smoke. She stared at the table, lips trembling. Finally she whispered, "The baby, she isn't yours." Michael froze, heart slamming against his ribs. He whispered, "What do you mean?" Sarah's eyes brimmed with tears as she said, "I lied because I was afraid. Afraid of what they would do, afraid of what I would lose." Michael's fists tightened around the chair, veins rising on his hands. His voice broke as he whispered, "You destroyed me with this lie." Sarah sobbed, saying, "It was never meant to reach you." The room felt smaller, suffocating. Every memory of the courtroom, every cry of the baby twisted now into unbearable betrayal. Michael's voice turned sharp. "Then whose blood does she carry?" Sarah's breath hitched as she whispered, "She's David's child." Michael staggered backward, body crashing against the counter. His voice cracked, "David?" Rage burned through his veins, betrayal cutting deeper than he imagined. He saw David's cold eyes at the doorway, the smirk when he turned away. Michael whispered, "You both lied to me, Sarah sobbed harder, her voice shaking. I didn't want you to know. You would have left me forever. Michael's voice rose, trembling with fury. You already left me. You chose him. He slammed his fist against the counter, the sound echoing like a gunshot. Silence followed, filled only by Sarah's sobs and the hum of the fridge. Michael stormed out into the night, the cold air cutting his skin. He paced the porch, whispering, "He betrayed me." His fists trembled as memories of their friendship crashed against the truth. He remembered nights with David, laughter, trust, loyalty, all burned now into ash. Sarah's voice echoed from inside, muffled by sobs. Michael whispered, "You gave him what I could never have." He felt rage choke him, fear twisting inside like a blade. He pressed his palms against the porch rail, whispering, "I will never forgive this." His body shook, torn between collapse and explosion. David arrived unannounced, standing in the doorway with arms crossed. His eyes glinted with arrogance. He said, "Now you know." Michael's body stiffened, fury burning hotter. He whispered, "You stole everything from me." David smirked, his voice calm. "She chose me, Michael. You were never strong enough." Michael lunged forward, stopping just short of striking him. His voice trembled. "You're a coward hiding behind lies." David's smile faded, his jaw tightening. He whispered, "That child is mine, and nothing you do changes that." Michael's heart thundered, words cutting deeper than any wound. Sarah sobbed in the background, begging, "Stop this, please." The air between them felt like a blade about to strike. Michael's voice broke as he shouted, "You betrayed me, both of you." His chest heaved, every breath ragged with fury. David stepped closer, whispering, "You were never meant to know." Michael's body trembled as he whispered, "Then why bring me into this?" Sarah cried out, "Because the truth could not stay hidden." Michael's fists shook, his body collapsing into the weight of it all. He whispered, "My life is not my own anymore. You've tied me to a child who carries your blood." David's smirk faltered, guilt flickering for the first time. Michael's voice dropped, sharp and cold. "I will not let her suffer because of your sins." The silence after carried the weight of broken trust and unshakable vows. The courthouse was heavy with silence, every eye fixed on the storm ready to explode. Michael stood trembling, fists clenched, his voice breaking as he shouted, "I will not abandon her." David sneered, his words sharp, "She is mine, not yours." The judge raised his gavel, demanding order, but the voices drowned him out. Sarah wept quietly in the corner, her face pale with regret. Michael's breath shook as he whispered, "She needs love, not lies." His mother's cold voice cut through, "You are a fool, Michael." The weight of judgment pressed on him from every side, but his chest rose higher with defiance. He shouted again, "I will fight for her." Michael's voice cracked, trembling but strong, "You betrayed me, David, but you will not break her." David laughed bitterly, saying, "You're nothing, Michael, and you always will be." The words burned into his chest like fire. Michael stepped forward, eyes blazing, shouting, "I am not my father. I will not abandon her." His mother gasped, her face pale, the room frozen in disbelief. Sarah covered her face, sobbing louder, torn between the two men. The judge's gavel struck, echoing like thunder. But Michael's words carried stronger. His voice cut through the chaos. "This ends with me." David stepped closer, his voice low and venomous. "She will always be mine, Michael." Michael's jaw tightened as he whispered, "Not if I stand." Their eyes locked, years of friendship crumbling into dust. The baby's cry rose from the back of the courtroom, piercing the silence, forcing everyone to freeze. Michael turned, his voice breaking, "She deserves truth, not this war." Sarah's tears flowed freely, whispering, "Stop, please." But neither man moved. Michael whispered again, "If I must burn everything to protect her, then so be it." Michael lunged forward, shouting, "You will not take her." David shoved him back, fury flashing in his eyes. The judge roared for order, slamming his gavel, but chaos erupted. Sarah screamed, her voice breaking as she begged them to stop. Michael's mother stood frozen, her lips trembling for the first time, fear crossing her stern face. Michael's voice shook as he cried, "This is not about you, David, or me. It's about her." The baby's cry grew louder, echoing through every corner of the courtroom. Silence followed like a storm breaking, each breath heavy with truth. Michael stood in the wreckage of silence, chest heaving, eyes burning. He whispered, "I will protect her no matter the cost." David's smirk had vanished, his face hard but shaken. Sarah sobbed, whispering, "Michael, please don't do this." His mother turned away, shame painted across her face. Michael's voice cut through, firm and unyielding, "I have made my choice." The baby's cries softened, as if answering him. He looked toward her, whispering, "She will know who stood for her." The courtroom froze, every heart caught in the storm of his vow. The courtroom emptied slowly, whispers trailing like smoke. Michael sat slumped, his chest heaving, eyes fixed on the floor. Sarah approached cautiously, her voice trembling. "What will you do now?" Michael didn't look at her, his voice low. "I will carry what you broke," she cried, reaching toward him, but he pulled away. His mother lingered in the doorway, silent for once, her judgment replaced with quiet shame. Michael whispered, "I will not walk away." The baby's soft cry echoed down the hall, fragile but steady. For the first time, Michael's lips trembled into something close to resolve. He whispered, "She will not grow up in silence like I did." The words sealed his choice, though his heart ached under the weight. Michael walked into the hallway, every step heavy. The nurse held the baby close, rocking gently. He paused, staring at her small face, his throat tight. Sarah whispered behind him, "She's not yours." Michael turned, his voice raw. "She is mine now because I choose her." The nurse smiled faintly, as if relief softened the tension. Michael reached out, trembling, brushing the baby's tiny hand. He whispered, "You won't know the loneliness I knew." His mother turned away, unable to face him, her silence louder than words. Sarah sobbed, whispering, "I destroyed us." Michael's eyes stayed on the baby, his voice steady. "You destroyed me, but she might save me." That night, Michael sat alone in his apartment, the baby asleep in a small borrowed crib. Shadows stretched across the cracked walls. He whispered, "This is not the life I imagined." He leaned close, watching her tiny chest rise and fall, fragile but strong. His hands shook as he brushed her blanket, whispering, "But maybe this is the life that finds me." Sarah's voice echoed in memory, her sobs woven into betrayal. David's arrogance burned like a scar he could not erase. His mother's judgment lingered like poison. Yet, none of it mattered in that moment. He whispered, "I will give you what no one gave me, love." His voice broke, but the vow felt whole. The next morning, Michael's mother came quietly, her face lined with sorrow. She stood by the doorway, voice unsteady. "You cannot do this alone." Michael looked up, eyes hollow but firm, whispering, "I already am." She stepped closer, her hand trembling as she touched the crib. For the first time, her eyes softened, tears threatening to fall. She whispered, "I failed you." Michael's chest tightened, words sharp yet fragile. "Then help me not to fail her." His mother's silence carried years of regret. She nodded slowly, her eyes fixed on the baby. Michael closed his eyes, the weight shifting into something almost bearable. Evening fell, and Michael sat with the baby in his arms, rocking gently. Sarah stood at the doorway, her face pale, eyes hollow. She whispered, "I don't deserve forgiveness." Michael didn't look at her, his voice quiet but sharp. "Forgiveness is not yours to ask for." She sobbed, stepping back into the shadows. The baby stirred, her small hand resting against his chest. Michael whispered, "You will not know abandonment. You will know you are wanted." The silence grew heavy, but peace seeped through the cracks of pain. His choice was sealed, not easy, not clean, but unshakable. He whispered one last time, "You are mine now." Michael sat alone in the quiet apartment, the baby sleeping against his chest. The world outside carried on, cars passing, voices fading, but his world had changed forever. He whispered, "You are the reason I still breathe." His eyes lingered on her tiny face, her fragile breath steady against his heart. Sarah's betrayal, David's arrogance, his mother's silence, all burned into ash compared to the warmth in his arms. He whispered again, "They will not define you." He remembered his father's cruelty, nights filled with shadows, and vowed the cycle ended here. His voice steadied, "I will be what no one was for me." The silence answered him, not with despair, but with fragile hope. Sarah appeared in the doorway, her face pale and streaked with tears. She whispered, "Michael, I cannot take back what I've done." He did not look up, his voice cold. "You already took everything." She stepped closer, trembling, whispering, "Do you hate me?" He finally raised his eyes, filled with pain but stripped of rage. He whispered, "No. Hate is too small for what you did." Sarah's knees buckled, her body crumpling against the doorframe, sobbing. Michael turned his eyes back to the baby, his voice firm, "She is all that matters now." Sarah wept louder, her grief echoing in the quiet. Michael whispered softly, "You chose lies, I choose her." The next morning, Michael stepped outside, holding the baby close. Cold air brushed against his skin, the city waking in gray silence. Neighbors glanced at him, whispers rising like smoke. One voice muttered, "That's not even his child." Michael's jaw tightened, but he kept walking, his steps steady. He whispered to the baby, "Let them talk." The baby stirred in his arms, small fingers curling into his shirt. Michael felt the weight of judgment, sharp as knives, but it no longer broke him. He whispered, "I will teach you to walk through fire." His eyes lifted toward the horizon, heavy but determined. Later, Michael stood at his father's grave, the baby bundled in his arms. Wind cut across the cemetery, carrying silence. He whispered, "You broke me, but I will not break her." His voice cracked, "This ends with me." Tears blurred his vision, but his grip on the child remained steady. He thought of nights he cried alone, nights filled with silence and fear. The baby stirred, her small cry piercing the cold air. Michael whispered, "You will not know this pain." He pressed his forehead to the stone, his tears soaking into the name carved there. He whispered again, "She will know love." That night, Michael sat in the quiet apartment, the baby asleep in her crib. He whispered, "They tried to take everything from me, but they cannot take you." His eyes glistened as he leaned closer, brushing her tiny hand with his finger. He whispered again, "You will always know who I am." The silence carried his vow into the night, sealing it with unbreakable weight. Michael leaned back, his chest rising with weary strength. For the first time, he felt peace woven into the pain. He whispered one final line, soft as breath, "You are my beginning, not my end."